So you spent a bunch of time, energy, even money on your business website so you can start selling to customers, and yet no one's converting. Sure, you've got visitors, but no one's actually buying anything. Well, in this video, I'm going to go through 3 of the smallest and yet most important details when it comes to making your business website work. And hopefully, by the end of the video, you'll be able to take another look at that nice shiny website, optimize it a little bit more, and you can start making some money. That's enough out of me. Let's get on with it. So, mistake number 1, and this is actually a really easy pitfall to fall into, especially if you've got a lot of products to sell. Picture this, you walk into your local shop, and as you walk in the door, you are bombarded by offers. You've got several different people telling you about all the different things that they're selling at the store. It would be chaos. You wouldn't know where to start. And there's a reason why most shops are not like this. It's chaotic, it's confusing, and realistically, your brain is just going to switch off rather than try and engage with anything in front of you. And that's exactly how it is when your homepage is cluttered. Most visitors decide if they're going to stay or go when they hit your website within 5 seconds. That is really not a lot of time. And if it's not super clear what the customer should be doing next, they're probably going to go. So let's take a quick look at an example of cluttered homepages. So here we have a bed store website. Now it doesn't look all that cluttered, and that's why it's probably actually quite an easy pitfall to fall into. But let's take a closer look at the website. First things first, we've got a logo in the middle of the page that immediately draws your eye. Around that logo, we've got moving images. That's already a little bit chaotic. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's enough to distract your eye away from where potentially you want the customer to be looking. In the masthead and the main menu there are 5 layers of options. 5 layers. That's kind of crazy. The problem here is that yes, you can see that they are obviously a bed store and they sell all of these different kinds of beds. But unless the customer comes in knowing exactly what they want already, there's no information on this webpage, at least above the fold, that tells them or even suggests to them what they could be looking at. There are no calls to action anywhere on this page that takes them through to special offers or anything like that. And at the end of the day, a customer's going to come onto this webpage, they're going to take a look, and if they don't know what they want already, I think they're going to click off. Not to toot our own horn, but let's take a look at the fastest webpage as a comparison. There you see the masthead is very simple. You've got the logo and then you've got 7 options. Those options will split down into more options as you need them, but you're not having to decipher 5 layers of different options to even start to choose from before you even start seeing product. Just below that, we've then immediately got a call to action for searching for your perfect domain name. Below that, we've immediately then got a special offer for you, UK hosting for 49 pence. You're not having to click around a website to find all of this information. It's right there in front of you, but everything is self-contained. You're not being bombarded by different information. There is very little moving imagery to take your eye away from the important things here on the page. You just see the important stuff, and that is what a good homepage should do. So you've taken another look at your homepage, and yeah, it's looking a bit chaotic. So what do you do to fix it? Well, you need to keep in mind 3 main things. First things first, you need to start with a very clear and bold headline. Who is this website for? Who are you selling to? Next, you want to make sure that you're limiting your navigation. You don't want to make things hard to find, but you don't want to bombard them with information right off the bat. A good way of doing this is using menus that split down into submenus. It means that if someone knows what they're looking for, they can click on that menu and they can find the option they're looking for. But you're not bombarded immediately by multiple menus, and that means that new customers and maybe people who don't quite know what they're after yet have the opportunity to see your homepage and find out more about you. And finally, have one main thing on the page for someone to do. Case in point with the fastest website, yes, we do have a call to action about searching for your domain name, but the thing that really grabs your attention is that center part, the web hosting special offer. And that's what we want a visitor to see, is the one main thing that you're offering. Yes, if that's not what they're looking for, you should have other things in that space that they can see. So for example, searching for your domain name, grab a VPS, and also our calling all GL businesses special offer. That's all available there on the page, but it's not there bombarding you and taking over from the center point, which is our UK hosting special offer. If you take just one thing away from this whole section, it's remembering that your homepage is not there to close the sale. It's where you open a door and say, hey, here's what we've got to offer. So the next mistake is one you probably wouldn't expect, but especially in 2025, It's becoming more important than ever. Now, you spend all of your time making your website look absolutely fantastic. You've got cool animations, big high-res images, you've got fancy fonts, loads of cool stuff that makes your website expressive and really pop out to the viewer. The problem with that is now your website takes ages to load. And even if it doesn't take ages to load, maybe it just added a second or two to that load time. But trust me, that's enough. And if you're not worried right now, then I think this stat might change that. Research performed within the e-commerce industry has indicated that websites that take up to and over 3 seconds to load bounce up to 40% of their visitors. That's nearly half of your potential customers gone because your website took 3 seconds to load. That's pretty scary. And the thing that's slowing your website down is all that fancy stuff we just talked about. Those high-res images, those animations, all that cool stuff. Yeah, looks really good, but you need to be careful that you're not overdoing it and slowing your site down. First things first, take your website and go and run it through Google PageSpeed Insights. It's a really useful tool that will give you a really good idea of how slow is your website and what is it on your website that's actually slowing you down. Whilst working on the support team, I dealt with a fair few calls about my website is running slowly. Is there something wrong with your servers? And 9 times out of 10, I was able to take that domain URL, put it into PageSpeed Insights, and I'd be able to show the customer how they could save up to 5 seconds by just doing something like compressing images on their site. Everyone wants the best looking images for their website. I totally get it. But image compression is just so important when it comes to websites, and it's something that sometimes is really overlooked. So if your site's feeling a little bit sluggish, if it's a bit slow, if it's hitting that 3-second mark, that kind of death zone of website loading, then there's 3 things that you should probably go and take a look at straight away. First things first, go and compress all of your images on your site if you haven't done so already. It's a really simple task, and there are a bunch of tools out on the internet that can help you do that. Next, get rid of any plugins that you are not using and that you don't need. Sure, some of them are really cool, they offer some really cool functionality, but if people aren't even using it on your website, then do you need it? Is it slowing you down? And if you're building your own website, it's really common to have this idea of using this plugin or using this feature and then just forgetting about it, and it's just sat there, just taking up resource for no reason. Go through, make sure that any plugins you need are there, but any that you don't need, get rid of them. And finally, make sure that the hosting platform you're using is suitable for what you're trying to do. A small shop might work on a basic package, but if you're starting to sell more and more products and you're getting more and more visitors, you need to be mindful of the fact that some packages are just not designed to do that. And maybe it's time to upgrade to a bigger package or maybe even your own virtual private server. If you're a Fasthost customer and any of this is sounding familiar to you, I really encourage you to get in touch with our support team. They'll be able to take a look at your website and give you a really good idea of the next steps to getting your website loading faster. And now finally, let's take a look at mistake number 3. No clear call to action. Now, we've already talked about how the homepage is not necessarily where you sell, but it's where you introduce yourself as a business and offer some options to the customer. But here's the thing. Customers need to be directed through your website. They're not just going to go through menu after menu to find what they want. And when it comes to your special offers and deals, you need to make sure these are right there in front of the customer so that they can see them. And this is where call to action is so important. Let's face it, in 2025, people are very easily distracted. If you've got no call to action on your website, what's going to happen is they're going to land on your website, they're going to click through some menus, they might scroll if you're lucky, but if there isn't something for them to do right there and then, chances are you've lost them and they've clicked off to another website. If you're not giving them very clear instructions and very clear buttons to click that takes them to these places, they're probably not going to get there in the first place. And luckily for you, I've got another example to show you. Links Cars is kind of a classic when it comes to web design. And it's kind of almost, especially the older versions of the page, are basically a what not to do when it comes to web design. Now, it is worth noting, of course, that when it comes to Links Cars, this is definitely intentional bad design, but it's definitely an over-the-top example nowadays of what not to do when it comes to web design. Now, this website is very much not clear. It's very cluttered. Would have been a really good example for point 1 as well of how a cluttered homepage is really just not good. But you'll notice here that when you actually get to reading any of this, you've got a follow me here for the live Twitter feed. You can search for cars here if you can eventually see that CTA. There are some buttons here, but it's not very clear. This is almost an example of CTAs that are not obvious. And yes, there are some CTAs here, but they're all in the wrong places. In some cases, there are too many CTAs. There is no direction with this website. You're not being directed anywhere specifically. But why don't we look at the modern version of Links Cars to show you exactly what I'm talking about. So this is the modern version. It's much cleaner for starters. It's much less chaotic. They've still got the interesting pattern design. But what's more obvious is, okay, so the first thing that we see here is just this big banner, and we're seeing really important information straight off the bat. We can click on that. It's not necessarily a CTA, but it is an ad that's right there, right in front of us. It's really well placed. But the CTA here is very simply, I want a car. Select all these options and get a deal. There's something for you to do, and it's immediately obvious when you hit the website. You see the special offers, you got an idea what the pricing is on this website. What is this? Is this the right place for me to be looking to buy a car in the first place? Is this what I'm after? And then you've got a very, very clear CTA, call to action to say, hey, yes, I do want a car. Let's search for a car. And that's just a really clear example of how Links Cars has managed to basically fix what was a chaotic mess, which again applied for my first mistake of cluttered homepage, but also a lack of obvious CTA. And then with this updated version, they've managed to actually just make it really simple, and it's really obvious what you're supposed to do on this website. In a weird way, it's almost sad to see Links Cars looking more normal, because that was kind of the whole point of the website in the first place, was to be a bit anti-practice. But that's not really something that you can bank on in 2025 to make your website work. So if you want to take a look at your website and figure out how you can implement a CTA, well, there's a few things that you can think about. First things first, it's a really good idea to pick one key action per page. You don't want to overload your pages with multiple things that the customer has to do. There just has to be one distinct thing that they do. And you want to make sure that that's really obvious on that page. When you create that CTA, it needs to be super clear what it is, what the benefit to the user is, and it also needs to be action focused. And if you want someone to download your free guide, it should be super obvious that that button is download your free guide. Finally, don't limit yourself just to having one instance of that call to action. Yes, have one call to action per page, but make sure that it's super obvious on that page in multiple areas. You don't want the user to be hunting for the call to action. It should be super obvious, and you want to make sure that people who immediately scroll on your page can still have the opportunity to do that call to action by having it in multiple different places. If this helped you spot even just one thing on your website, please give the video a like so that everyone knows that this video is useful, and also leave a comment down below and tell me what it was that helped, and maybe even give some examples of your website so we can take a look and see the difference. And if you want more stuff like this, where we kind of go into a deep dive on the little things that you can do to help really improve your website, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That lets me know that you want more content like this, and we'll make sure we get that out to you. I hope this has all helped, and bye for now.